The music is over and we are beginning this final discussion session, City at the Level of Man. My name is Alexey Muratov. I am a partner of KB Strelka, mentioned already at several sessions today. At the previous round table devoted to intensification of the city space, it was mentioned that we forgot man somehow as a cherry garden play. Then we recalled that aspect, and our session today will be on humanizing of the urban environment, developing it in the interest of man after his wish. We shall see the most of strategic documents, guidelines by federal and regional and city authorities, including the strategic plan for Khabarovsk sustainable development. The main goal in these documents is building up a favorable environment, favorable for man, comfortable for man, and optimal for unveiling the potential human capital. So now we shall speak about that type of environment, how it will evolve, what innovations are in it, what traditions are. It is the final session. Many participants, very many. I would invite all and every. So I am urging everyone, every of the speakers and presenters and commenters to make it dynamic so it is not tiring. Now the composition, the list of our present speakers: Alexander Nikolaevich Sakhalov, Mayor of Khabarovsk, he will begin it. Then will be Vera Ivanovna Luchkova, Dean of Architecture and Design Department, Pacific State University. Grigory Lvovich Kertman will follow her, Head of Analytical Department, Public Opinion Foundation. Then Alexey Viktorovich Novikov, Dean, Higher School of Urban Studies. And it will be wound up by Grigory Sakovich Devzin, who is both partner of Strelka, professor of Higher School of Urban Studies, and a special correspondent of Kommersant Publishing House. Let's begin. Alexander Nikolaevich, please tell us what is happening in Khabarovsk. We know it's one of the best cities as far as amenities. Nevertheless, thank you. I will make an amendment. When it was necessary to fight for the city with best amenities, we were investing much and developed 3 times, long ago it was, we were named first in, and we are pioneering Russia in the first positions. I would say that a set of factors is required so that the discussion will answer the agenda. The success of a city depends on a clear strategy development, and Khabarovsk has such a strategy. There is a strategic plan and all the necessary environments and regulations, they support it. So from 2006, we have this plan, the general strategic plan for improving the living standards quality. No doubts, some things were difficult to attain. For example, it is the land relations. It took us long. You understand, without land resources, one cannot speak about human development. So that thing and legislative changes in the regional institutions took place. Certainly we need a planning policy, and for that, at the round table now, before it, we discussed the policy, we discussed it and said the inefficient city planning policy should be eliminated. See, many cities face it, and also a combination of growing city, up and broadening. There are pros and cons in both ways. We at our roundtable were a kind of one-sided, speaking about the economy and efficiency of energy resources. And certainly we are supplied by planning documentation, the planning projects, 100%, the land survey projects. Last July we had an urban forum of CIS under UN Habitat. So the Sabarak city model was taken as an example for the cities participating in that forum. Today, as the Far East is vested with a special role of becoming a territory for intense growth, since the strategy of the city development foresees it. So for outward investor as well, a task is to channel the resources for creating the favorable, comfortable environment for man, so that residents participate efficiently in the city life. We have a number of programs for the city environment. So these programs helped in a number of projects, and they were presented at many architectural contests. And these projects help us. For example, a physical awareness direction. The municipality commissioned over 60 different facilities, and culture and entertainment. Concerning that, the centers emerged and the city can be proud of them. One of such art palaces, the president of the Russian Federation, welcomed or greeted the Russian citizens on the New Year Eve. So that center is new and efficient. About 15 different entertainment and cultural centers emerged. They are movie theaters and also provide ground for the young, and that is the public-private partnership effect, because the investor came after we put forward the initiative. Now the citizens are happy in remote areas as well. The investor is happy because it became a business for the investor. And the authorities are happy because this is solved. The problems are solved. The squares and parks have been refurbished. Now we plan 10 more green areas in the housing districts along the trunk roads. They will decorate the city as well. Much is cared for in the road reconstruction. Regretfully, this is only out of loans. Regretfully. We have no legislative support for funding our road network, and even restricted for maintenance of roads. That's why only 10% is available. 10% of the needed, so we redistribute the funds. The territories of development, of advanced development, have been identified. They are points of attraction, and there will be attraction of development in the future. This requires much attention to municipal service development. You see, we are restricted in assets and a number of things like amenity construction, greenery, planting, etc. This is done mostly by the municipal sector. It has made a good progress. The municipal sector economy went up 7.2% in labor efficiency, because we have our new forms of management, new technologies, and the programs that the city is running, that is good. Another aspect mentioned today is the developing the civil society institution and involving a resident into the city planning and construction. Yes. So the best yard, the best municipal, the best building, the best entry is a contest today. And we provide grants to the citizens and their teams.
A lot of work is to be done, especially it refers to the old houses. Without federal government support, we won't be able to solve this problem, and residents understand that without their assistance, without their engagement, it will be possible to solve this problem. So public hearings, public movements, just what we need to concentrate our efforts. Everything is being done openly, with arranging hearings and discussions. For example, the square. We are working on the project. On this project, I believe that it will be the best square in the country. There will be a museum, and the square of military glory. There will be zones for recreation of people. A lot is being paid to the light system in the city. We pay special attention to it and try to involve people in all these processes. Undoubtedly, even organization of simple subbotnik, when people were clean the city after winter, for example, there were quite a few people who were unhappy about that. But now this movement is gaining force, and people are more and more active in this movement. This dialogue with the local people helps to expedite this process. Thank you, Alexander Nikolaevich. Yes, I try to be within the time limit. Thank you very much. That's why we can ask a few questions. First of all, a new economic situation, including, as we understand, the city budget will be reduced. The question whether these changes will change plans for the development of the city. Of course, some changes will be done, not because of the crisis, but because of some changes, regulatory changes. For example, deductions into the budget will be reduced. Crisis as such practically has no serious impact on our development. The growth of production is 119%, GDP growth 106%, introduction of new house facilities 164%. Much more difficult is another aspect. It's just deductions into the budget, or revenues into the local budget. I'm looking. Only 8.6% of total revenues from all kinds of activity in the city will remain in the local budget, but we expanded programs based on PPP principles and also projects with participation on foreign investors. There were programs in the past based on the investments made by foreign investors, but still we are working in this direction. Second question, so what is your assessment of the quality of the work done, of the changes done by the municipality on the principles of PPP? So what can you say? And what are the criteria for assessing? The criteria are available, starting with economic ones and ending with public ones. There is an assessment of the efficiency of the work of the local government, and these indicators in the cross-section of 15 cities of the Far East of Russia and Siberia, and these, of course, indicators are being assessed. As a rule, we are among the top 3. Speaking about the territorial scale, only Komsomolsk has the same level of development. Of course, so we are 2 competitors, and of course we try to be first. As a rule, we are the first. It happens so. And one more thing. And we have the internet site Region 27, and the work of the municipality is being assessed on this site. We work closely with sociologists, with different institutes which study the public opinion, and a number of projects we offer for public hearings. Thank you, Alexander Nikolaevich, very much. And still, I'd like to ask Lena Karatkova about the concept of the compact city. And you said that the idea of compact city is not the only one which is applied to Khabarovsk. In your study, you based on the idea of compact city or in a wider range. Sorry. I was limited by time, and of course any direction has its advantages, and there are cities where people have their private houses, and there are cities where people in a stone cave, so to speak, in inverted commas. Of course, the efficiency of living in individual houses is very high. Everything depends on our possibilities. So, on the other hand, to work out the city planning policy, the opportunity we have for that, it's necessary to work out requirements that all players involved should fulfill all the requirements concerning the development of the urban environment. And of course, we should avoid the development of built-up areas and not enough leverages in this respect, and the interest of investors, if the investor As a rule, investor is interested primarily in this kind of projects, and it is more important, more interesting for us to focus on those projects which will have a higher social impact. So the main idea is to develop urban environment in this. Sorry, I failed to express my idea to the very end. Lena, do you fully agree? Yes, in our study we also proceeded, well, our assessment of economic ones, so compact pattern we consider from the point of economic efficiency. And of course, comparing additional expenditures on constructing or upgrading infrastructure and engineering service lines, not during 1 or 2 years when the city receives additional revenues from renting of land and different kind of facilities, but during 10-15 years. Of course, these remote districts are not so profitable and rational and efficient from the point of the city budget point of view. The reform of transferring authorities on using plots of land to the local authorities will give additional leverages for the city for a compact development as a whole, and to identify more profitable aspects in the budget. Now, our next speaker is Vera Ivanovna Luchkova from the Pacific State University. We are very thankful to her. She helped us during our studies, and now we'll listen to independent opinion of a researcher, representative of the academic community on the development of urban environment. I think it's better to show on the screen. It's better to show the presentation rather than our portraits. Okay, thank you for nice words.
I hope for our city, the work of our university is a great benefit. I would like to dwell on public spaces of Khabarovsk. Certainly what has been done in recent years in this connection, especially a number of multifunctional public spaces, open air or roofed. You see, no resident will criticize it, and because they are positive. Much has been changed, especially in the city center. These multifunctional spaces are very attractive for citizens, and as a result, there is a certain degree of congestion. The natural landscape cannot withstand this congestion. One unveiling the fountains, a huge crowd, the trees, the land is not seen, people all around, and it is a natural environment. So we lack such areas. We cannot do everything at once, certainly. What is being done is very good, but the example shows very brightly that we have to take away to the party districts some of the functions. And recently such an important successful project was carried out in Severnaya Park area, Northern District. Where is it? Here in the park, and 770 meters off, my students told me, is the entertainment center of Khabarovsk. Certainly doesn't go. Certainly it is a successful project. All citizens mark how popular the movie theater Khabarovsk is, and our university expresses great gratitude to the mayor because it was a design project of our student. And the student competed with the professionals. This center is very popular, like the Severny Park, the Northern Park. A problem arises now. The people come here already now from the other city parts. And the platform before Khabarovsk Center is overfilled. You see, it's good for cyclists and rollers. They can park here and engage in active recreational activity. But they can go to the park 70 meters with some city events. For example, farewell to winter. The crowd was so great in that park that, you see, if that was well thought over, I think it is a drawback of the architects and marketologists and economists, because it had to be connected. You see, on top is left is the format connecting Strelnikov Street and a part of Danilovskого Street. They have to be shaped so that people flowed in different directions, and the complex would be much more attractive, because like the ponds, so all around, the ponds are surrounded by business facilities, and the mayor says we are driving them out like restaurants. It's not the ponds. It's the one restaurant, Baku restaurant, next to it. You see, the parks and the ponds, they are being surrounded by the infrastructure. It is not bad, but you see, this project of the park has to be further developed in a more integrative way, attracting not only architects and authorities, but also the business and the local community with their opinion. So, in this situation, I would like to mention the project that emerged and is developing now by the initiative of the graduates of our university is called the Embankment Project. You see, it's an indicator of the city pulse, so to say. The young people went to different offices, to professionals, the mayor's office. The mayor supported the idea. They also turned to the design institutions. Everyone was positive, but the question is, now the internet online polling is underway. Very engaging results. See, the mechanisms of interaction of the 4 groups of participants should be activated. So authorities, businesses, professionals, and the city community. And that team of young people, the graduates, they are 5. 3 of them live in Moscow. 2 are working. 1 is graduating from the Higher School of Urban Studies, and 2 in Khabarovsk. But these graduates, they started the online polling what does the embankment mean for the city? It brought astounding things for me. The Amur view is important by 74% of the polled from the embankment, the view of the Amur River. So we lack open, free spaces, then is marked by over 65%. Do you visit the embankments in winter? Yes, 32%. And even in the winter, when the embankment is not cleared from the snow, so low rate of attendance, but can save money. The reconstruction. Do you think the upgrading of the embankment is urgent? Yes. And another alarming factor, out of these 1,500 people, 60% and 60% of the Khabarovsk people and 60 are from anywhere, abroad and other Russian cities, but they remember the city. They have proposals about it. So they like their city, love it even, but don't live here. 40%. It's a very, very astounding conclusion. And what is the question? So it's just a statement. They love it, but they are not living. It's a very serious problem. We are doing everything since they like it, but the other thing, they still live. A number of things since we are together to think and improve. Excessive. You see, you stress too much this issue of out migration. If you take smaller spaces, so half a year go back and forth, if people find the opportunity, they may even regret leaving here. You see, it was not us settling the places where these people left for. As far as the park, Severny, the reconstruction is midway. Danilovsky Street, naturally, we plan to cut the micro-districts and remove some houses because the trunkway across the residential area is not very good. You see, we provided parking lots and we continue improving it. And Danilovskaya Street in the future, it will cross the university area. You see, university may not like it, but and Dynamo Park 2 days ago, the governor uplifted restrictions. This was recognized the best also in the country. The children's park. You see, there was a gossip that the trees were cut down for firewood. It is not true. The 2 parks, instead of rotten poplars, they obtained very good lime trees, pine trees, and this was blocked by the city and you all kept silent when vetoed the park development. It shouldn't be so. So we shall finalize it, but for dispersing, for loosening such bottlenecks.
There are many citizens of Khabarovsk here. The only place of attraction was the square named after Lenin. Now there are much more places which attract people. The Southern Territory, Gagarin's Park, and many other places which are much more interesting. The city is 157 years old, and what has been done during all these years we can't change in one moment, but we work together, and we have very good potential here. We can develop our parks. I can see Irina Dubyanska. She will support my statement that 39 territories are planned for planting trees. Sorry, I can't hear the answer. And 100 hectares will be involved into this kind of projects for planting trees and other kind of vegetation. Of course, huge plans. One comment. I would like to ask Alexander Ivanovich to speak about the embankment. Probably he would say a few words. The thing is that one of the problems, we've touched upon it during our discussion, the protection of the territories which are lower than the maximum flooding in 2013, and one of the territories which was damaged as a result of that flooding, we can't do anything until we protect it. So either we to remove everything and to start from scratch, or to construct absolutely nothing, or maybe using the protection facilities. I'm speaking about the park of Lenin's Stadium. So probably we should construct some protective facilities. And there are some other places. Of course, we can. And Lenin Stadium is our headache, because we can construct a protection, a dam, but it's a park. Now the question is, what can be allowed to do that, what can't, and the question is how the residents will react to do so. It is of concern to us. Of course, there are temporary engineering facilities. Probably we have to raise the level of the territory, but it is very expensive. Today, the dam is under construction in the southern direction for 7 kilometers, and now another 15 kilometers in Lenin Stadium. It's the whole embankment. It's a heavy burden for the city. So how to make it comfortable, how to arrange places for recreation. It requires huge amounts of financing. So the question is, are you going to participate in the local Subotnik tomorrow? Yes, yes, I was among those who were protecting the city in 2013 flooding, and tomorrow I will participate in Subotnik. The dam is under construction. Probably you've seen it already during the tour of the city. But the question is that it's our dream to construct such an embankment in the southern direction along which people can walk. I wanted to ask a question, but because of shortage of time, just a comment. Now, statement about the overloading of the central part of the city. I think it's a dream of any mayor to have overloaded places. For example, Red Square in Moscow. It's really good that people come to this or that place, because it's a place for people to communicate, to socialize. The other thing, the main association of people is with the Amur River, is interpreted as a necessity in open spaces. I think that the main idea, the identity of Gdańsk residents is related to the sea. It means that they need sea spaces. I think the Amur River is an important symbol of Khabarovsk, an important part of the urban lifestyle. It's not a dream of ecological spaces. Now, briefly, when I said about the overloading, too much stress on this or that particular place, I meant the landscape, that too much stress on the landscape. With the rest, I agree with you. As to the festival devoted to spring festival, to say goodbye to winter, it's only the second year that we arrange an event here. We'll probably change it, or probably we'll try to do it in a better way. Probably we are to improve the place for that festival when winter meets with spring. Let us improve the open space. Let us work on the results of the polls. Of course, we'll discuss it more, maybe sometime later. In some so we should be careful speaking about these issues, because we should follow the common sense. So, residents of Kabul, who are they? What is of concern to them? What do they want? Let us listen to Grigory Rievzin, professor of the High School of Urban Studies, special correspondent of Kommersant. Sorry. Now, a few characteristics, a few features of the resident. I want to dwell on some specific aspects of lifestyle in Khabarovsk. It is based on the results of polls. So, because polls took place in different places in different cities, so it won't be just a single analysis of everything. It will be fragmented into several parts. I will compare not only Khabarovsk, residents of Khabarovsk by groups, but also Khabarovsk with other cities. Let us begin with the average resident of Khabarovsk is more engaged in different modern practices than the average resident in the central part of Russia. First of all, financial practices, the use of, you can't see it very well, sorry. Okay. So payment by credit card in big cities, 36%, in Khabarovsk 50% use this. Foreign currency 10% in large cities, 22% in Khabarovsk. Loans, bank loans, again, no numbers anymore. In addition to financial practice, residents of Khabarovsk are mobile. They move from place to place more often. They travel abroad more often. They use planes more often because of the distance, of course, primarily. Then their practices also have an impact on their mentality. Residents of Khabarovsk are engaged in sports activity in a wider sense, on a wider scale. They are keen about their fitness. And it's the kind of practice when you treat your body as a kind of resource. 2 times more often than people in the central part of Russia, they obtain an additional education. They master their skills, develop their skills. Next indicator. So it is generally acknowledged that the level of anonymous trust to a stranger is a very important parameter indicating the level of development of the social society and the potential of business activity, economic activity. Khabarovsk in this respect, I would say, is very low. Only 12% of residents in Khabarovsk say that they can trust most of the people. In Russia, the average number is 30, but paradoxically, this untrust to a stranger is combined with readiness to help, to render assistance to a stranger in case of necessity.
You see, we surveyed different practices like donations, etc. Khabarovsk didn't demonstrate any other specifics, but helping the strangers is very important for Khabarovsk residents, threefold over that of the comparable sized cities. September 2013, it went up extremely high. It's connected with the floods, maybe. But in general, is above the Russian average. So this duality, the basic mistrust and openness and readiness to help, it is also demonstrated in interethnic relations. Khabarovsk people more often than in other cities say that the incoming ethnic groups bring more good, more benefit than harm. And rather not so often, the Khabarovsk residents feel dislike or annoyance about the other ethnic groups. And ethnic conflicts are less common here. And the question whether the different ethnic groups should be banned or not. 86% are for restricting the incoming of ethnic groups. So this controversy, this paradox told last year in polling about receiving the refugees from the Ukraine, whether they need to be received and assisted. More often in Khabarovsk, the people demonstrated a desire to help. And whether the refugees should be helped as permanent residents. And in the country, the number of people are ready to have the incoming migrants is less than 1/4 in the country, while in Khabarovsk it is greater. So we asked about how people think of the assistance from the regional funds to those groups. Well, maybe another thing about the social capital. The Khabarovsk residents care about their health very much. In country, 2/3, and in Khabarovsk, 85%. They observe the regime, go through checkups, and recently we found out what is being done in the other cities as for the health awareness, extremely high health aware are people in Khabarovsk. For example, against alcohol in public spaces, against smoking in public. 70% is twofold over that in the other larger cities in the country. The topic of migration. Almost a half of the population are incomers here. It's a unique city, typical of such scale cities. The specifics are that a smaller share are from the rural areas, more are migrants from other cities, towns. Not so many rural traces. As far as the mood, really 39% of Khabarovsk residents will say they could leave or they plan leaving. Well, maybe most of them to the larger cities, but not Moscow. 35% will not go anywhere, but a high percentage impacts the general mood of my out-migration. Further on, in 2 minutes, in a few past years, the Khabarovsk mood changed drastically. If early 2012, the Khabarovsk residents two of the residents were unsatisfied and one satisfied with the situation. It shows that everything is more sharp in Khabarovsk. Early 2013, they were more uncontented, and by the end last summer, they were more contented. As for the similar dynamics are about the leader of the region. The attitude is being improved. It's everywhere across the country is being improved. But in the Khabarovsk Krai, the initial point was below the Russian average and the final was above, much above. And that concerns the efficiency of the regional leader, the governor, and as you see, the positive dynamics in Khabarovsk is much more drastic. The last slide concerns the problems. The protest potential is extremely low in Khabarovsk. Here is a list of altogether all kinds of lines here, not very reliable, but that shows very clearly the people care much for the housing and utility, the cost of housing. The country average is 75%, and Khabarovsk is below 65%. The communal utilities and the high cost of services and works. Less sharp is drug addiction issue here, and low salary. But if inside those lines, if we look at the dynamics, there can be other conclusion. As for the financial status and accessibility of housing, it is being improved. So the gap with the average Russian data is being overcome. That is positive. But three things worsen the situation. First is the functioning of utility community services. Second is roads. And third is healthcare. Healthcare is the same as average Russian. In Russian West is being deteriorating. The communal services, roads and Medicare, now against the other cities in Khabarovsk are number one priority. To make a full-scale analysis and development of the community in Khabarovsk, we need a special set of tools like mass falling, focus groups, and crowdsourcing, and social works, and everything that must be done as well to get the understanding. Thank you very much.
Residents of Khabarovsk are concerned about their health. Because of that, the quality of medical services is not very high. Okay, thank our Alexei Nikolaevich for participating and telling us a lot of interesting things. Success to yourself and to the city of Khabarovsk. Sorry, I can't hear. Of course, we'll give you the materials prepared on the results of our discussion. Our next speaker is Alexei Viktorovich Novikov. He will speak about the technologies of interacting residents of the city into the development of the city, especially such a city as Khabarovsk, residents who are active, moderately idealistic and optimistic. Thank you very much. I'll present Habitatum results of survey. Last year it was prepared. The theme or subject matter itself, to some extent, it is provocative, because when started to work on the city electronic services, it was included into a wider study how to manage the city. And electronic services are often considered as a technological mechanism or approach which allows to improve the communication between the local authority and residents, to make it faster, to expedite it, and of better quality. And then we understood, when we started the experiment of 35 agglomerations of the world, and we chose agglomerations to study cities within the administrative boundaries. In this respect, the technical aspect is very limited in importance. It's more important that the entire system is included into the mechanism, democracy, culture of the city, and into modern tendency in general, which encompass large cities of the world. So we started with such our understanding, where we put in the model of a relationship between the local authority and residents, the engagement of people into this kind of dialogue. What kind of dialogue? Either these are civilian issues or maybe professional ones. And the first shocking results were that, in essence, we use Moscow as an example. Moscow reached phenomenal success in this respect. I'll tell about later. Maybe the most important and maybe very important and effect of it for the city to organize a communication. It's necessary to complete the reform. For the federal government, the federal government takes tens of years to reform the communication. 2.5 up to 4 years it took the administration of big cities to introduce changes into this system of communication. So the task is not to reform the city, but to reform the means of communication between the residents and the local government. And it is the success achieved by the cities mostly in countries with developing economies: Mexico, Buenos Aires, Seoul, Moscow. Of importance here, of course, when we speak about such a powerful system of communication with the local authority, we see that we speak about organizing process of the society. On the other side, we see the contours of new economy. First of all, we see that there is an obvious transfer or change in accents starting from the development of the country towards the development of the city, the role of the city from the economic point of view and public as well, or social. The city becomes the source of many macroeconomic problems and achievements. We can cite an example as mortgage crisis in the USA. It started in Miami, San Francisco, and Los Angeles and Detroit. These are city models, which in this case, consider the house as a speculative asset or something, a temporary place of living, like Detroit, for example. These are all paradigms of respect to the house where you live as a basis of family values resulted in the economic crisis of the global scale. I can cite a lot of examples of this kind. The other thing is the transfer from or changes between the residents and the relations change from the plane. When first of all, the focus was on the food. Now the focus is on the relations between the local authorities and residents. Services are of more importance. A service approach means that we're trying to solve the problem of accessibility and availability in the city. For example, we study the issues related with transportation. Within the city, we speak not about old people or pensions. We speak, but people, disabled people. It's a paradigm of transfer from sectoral, industrial approaches towards service ones is okay within what we offer here. It's a change of paradigm of economic growth. It's the concept of the end of the 19th century. It is out of date already completely, and it is obvious that even at the national level, not mentioning the city level, this concept cannot claim for being considered of importance or important role. So we move towards we moved to the city in order to improve the urban environment. And as a result of it, new practices in taxation emerge and so on and so forth. In essence, we see this huge transformation, and this communication between residents and the government using internet, electronic forms of communication. It's a virtual space of communication. It's new space, you can say a new city square. As I mentioned already, we took 35 large city agglomerations throughout the world, and of course the main factor which determines the quality of the development in communication between the authorities and the residents. Then on the second level is the level of introduction of ICTs. Next factor is political culture. Then comes initiatives of the mayor, and then local agendas. For example, in Latin American cities, problems of the city, transport and security or safety. In New York, London, Paris, these are mainly systems of open data for the residents to take a decision. In Chinese cities, there is an attempt to create possibilities, or even to require from the local authorities to make presentations, to talk to the local people. In essence, if we compare all the agglomerations by two scales, one shows the quality of interaction, the vertical one. Here we mean the information, pure information communication, asked for information, received information, and the other vector is the services, some kind of services, for example, not to get information, but to issue a passport, for example, in electronic form. And the third one, the upper one, it's communication on some important questions which can take place during some particular time. In this case, we mean companies working on the issues related to city planning, documentation. So actually, vertically, we speak about the type of information, whether it is a civilian issued or professional or semi-professional. It's a horizontal line. And today's leaders in this kind are New York, Paris, London, as well as Moscow and some others, depending on the subject matter which we discuss. Moscow, 15 million people, the 25th economy by GDP. Alexei, 5 minutes more, not more than that. I'm finishing already. Okay. 15 million, 25th economy of the world. 15 million online requests processed by the portal Our City last year. So the level of electronic the use of electronic means of communication in Moscow is very high, 85% of using the internet. It is obvious that this kind of interaction is shocking, because if we can think about time, 2.5 years only, it seems that for the Moscow government it is a task. The task is formulated the task for the government is to increase the number of requests, online requests. Now the attempt is made to assess based on the number of visits to the site, to assess the quality of the work. But in this case, we run into the risk of losing the importance of this resource. So the main task today in cities, we have just created this kind of communication and move forward, and the main task is to see that it's like a road, whether cars move along it or not, it should exist. The same refers to this case. It should be in place. The possibility to use a facility in this case, we're speaking about virtual things. In this case, the reality is different. It's not like a park or some facility which is visited by actual people or not. And the last thing I wanted to say, that all this system of electronic communication is a fantastic source of information. In addition of improving the quality of services provided, it has it has a very big potential. This source of information, with the exception of very big cities, is not considered as very important. In the best case, it is considered like a reference book, encyclopedia, but that it is the source of a very useful information. It is which can be found and used. This aspect is unfortunately to some extent in the initial stage of emergence. Thank you very much, Alexey Viktorovich. And we have the last speaker, Grigory Isakovich Revzin. We are in a very hurry to finish in time. We were very fast to listen to the previous speakers. And now Grigory Isakovich will speak about city space. Doesn't work. Nothing is happening. Once again, I represent KB Strelka. As of now, we work on the question of complex reconstruction of Moscow streets. And the main idea is to create from streets the area of space for communication. Before that, we dealt with parks. And Strelka has been dealing with the issue of space for a long time already. All those approaches, we use different kind of approaches to achieve our goal. We know for sure what expects us. We understand that we are to plant trees, we are to arrange lights. Of course, there should be places for walking. We should not forget about bicycle drivers. There should be benches. We should not forget about water, like fountains, for example. Yes, we should think about different city types of sport, mostly for children, and maybe some kind of stage for example, students. And the main thing is to exclude transport from the street. In this case, we'll get the ideal street space. And in fact, most of the design bureaus will agree with us. The charming thing about it that if we take these approaches, it turns out that what we do with any public space, we turn it into the park. This park approach, the thing is that a park and a street are different spaces. As an example, just one page from Google, public speech design from Google. So if you enter this information, you get this information. It's not just one page, maybe 15 pages at least, one after another. And it shows that the entire world community come to the consensus with respect to this issue. The question is why? Why only parks? Why such a strange idea? If it is a public space, it should be a park. Who said it? What is the origin of this idea? And I tried to find an answer for myself. And in fact, my presentation is devoted to it. Of course, it supports a resident. It's a classical example with the reconstruction of embankments in Moscow. We participated in the competition. And the question, what would you like to see on the embankment? Almost 60% to see green color. People want to see vegetation everywhere. Yuri Grigoryan, Meganom, and Brian Evans won this competition. Here is their view of the future embankment. Yes, to some extent it's really charming. There are bridges, some grass. So it looks different from what we have here, and it looks very much in a park way. But one thing is very attractive, but on the other, as an example, and you can find a lot of pictures of this kind, it's just like Moscow after some nuclear catastrophe or disaster. The same effect here. But for the sake of beauty, we try to create what should frighten rather than attract. Another example, Belgian Bureau, and the other one is the house in Cambodia, which was almost completely destroyed. Such a difference. So it's, humor somehow was involved into it. It is Moscow. But this kind of approaches were actively employed in the past, especially in the 60s. It's Kapotnya is the least comfortable place in Moscow. So if you believe that Khabarovsk is the most comfortable, so comparing these two places, you can say what is more comfortable. A lot of green is here as an alternative to the city. Instead of streets or squares, we see just one big park, and we call it a residential area. The source of it is Corbusier and his book. The name of the book is given in French. Actually, it is Space and the Green, and his drawings are very attractive, and this is the way he viewed the city at that time. On the left is just actual embodiment of what is expressed in Corbusier book. Here we can see the second wave of modernistic view on the city on the right. Traditionally, the green color has never been a symbol of the city or catastrophic state of the city. In the past, for trees to be included into the landscape of the city, it should be cut. I'm not going to dwell on it. In a modern city, So if we believe that the epoch of modernism has started, sorry, I remind you that the epoch of modernism is determined by the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution in Great Britain. Through the social revolution, we move towards the industrial progress and vice versa. So, and there is no green here. As far as the social revolution is concerned, the meaning was to return to the initial state of a human being, original state, and we have what we see in this picture. And as far as the industrial person, he changed to this source of scare on the right.
The first parks that we see in the 19th century, especially in America, are close to plants, factories where the workers could recreate. And greenery was an alternative of the industrial city. Some short of time. In fact, greenery became a space for revolutionary activities. So there were places for 1st of May in France. There were different other activity spots like Monet, Picasso here, also revolutionary in character. I should say that this feeling of greenery and freeing from the industrial city was very much came to the fore after the Second World War, when the development became a nightmare. And natural man, it is Corbusier, after he emigrated to his villa and became extremely natural. This Picasso looks the same, and his photographs. This was first for the elite, then becomes a general tendency, more common attitude. Woodstock Festival, 1960, hippie, elitarian. This Woodstock, hippie and hipster. I would like to remind you, they are of the same root. Hippie, and then meaning is close. This is Woodstock. This is now Gorky Park, and it's the same ideal. Maybe not so radical. And when today in New York the women come out this way, they demonstrate the Woodstock ideas. This is charming, especially that's the last slide. But that is a negation of the city as such. Since 2008, because before then, Bilbao, Guggenheim was number one. Now this Euskadi Bilbao Piazza is a good place to see. Clearly, such negation of a city of capitalism and its development is very current. And there are street is also a bourgeois institute. It is for exchange between the people. It's where people communicate. Traditional function of streets, for example, a street as a cafe, as a showcase window, and as a stage. These are parallel street fashion examples as a trend in modern magazines, fashion magazines. And a street as a place for walk. But these functions of the street are not supported by modern design. When we want to make a new street, we introduce greenery. Maybe other qualities of street can be stressed. For example, street as interior, local lighting, individual, not collective furniture, a showcase but not a blank wall, any reflections, a greenery does not bring reflections, but looking glasses and glass in general creates an effect of a parlor. Stalls, theater stalls for the spectator, and stage separate. So the stage and the stalls, and the background is townscape, but not the landscape. It is principally important. So the street operated as the institution of exchange. So post-industrial economy, that is it. Thank you very much, Grigory Sakovich. I think you have come to the same concept of a compact city discussed before, because this greenery makes the city not compact, but more broad, spacey, etc., and so on and so forth. We have some 15 minutes to discuss it all. And this topic of business and economy, I would like to ask Mr. Sharonov, Andrei Sharonov. So we are discussing this amenity, improvement, and compact city. You were an author of the strategy for Moscow, though not adopted. But it paid much attention to the city environment, urban environment. Nowadays, is there a realistic payback in economy? See, we had a forum in historic cities where Vitaly Statnikov spoke, and after whom a developer he brought with. And after Vitaly, everyone got inspired, and the developer came and answered the first question, if there is any feasibility in it. He said, certainly not. Is there a feasibility in it? Can our Russian city be justifiable economically and bring benefits from amenity improvement projects? Thank you. Yes, one replica about density first was discussed. Lena was more definite than she digressed. The phrase, you don't like cats because you cannot cook them. I will speak about density. You don't like density because you cannot deal with it. So what I heard and read about in the world cities, the density makes the economy more viable. The people learned how to make it more comfortable, this environment. It certainly would be better for everybody to live in a separate cottage surrounded by 1 hectare of wood, but it would be costly for everyone, costly for the city with its roads. The economy of new spaces. Certainly, there is a traditional idea that when you have a plant, you understand the economy. Here are jobs, here is the tax, here is the profit tax, the workforce rate, the land and real estate. But for some reason, suddenly, when people, the plant disappeared, and in its location, either a park or a public space emerges, or some creativity spot, like an art play, etc. And the people don't stop grumbling, saying the city lost something very important, very good. And like the example of art play in Moscow, it is where you have private universities and workshops and shops, furniture shops, fashion and design topics, the concert grounds, the show exhibitions, manometer, old plant. Some people still regret losing it, something very bad instead. Well, in fact, the manometers are done in the fourth countries. It's impossible to create a new value. But economically, it is very feasible. People get wages, all their activities in demand.
There appear people with high requirements to the quality of life who can pay for it. A different economy emerges with different understanding of the quality, with different requirements, with ability to pay. All these economically very interesting. Returning to your question, to the question of the developer, it looks strange because if if one developer is to do everything alone, of course it's not economically sensible. But if we are to speak about if there appears a comfortable park zone in the city, it is also in the interests of a developer, because the result is money which will be collected. Of course, there is logic behind it, but still it is not clear why this logic does not work in the physical space. Because if we look at all our cities, only 0.5% out of 100 are developing in accordance with the logics you've just described. No, Alexei. Many people who have power, they use the category of the plant manometer. Plant is good. Park, just a lot of trouble, just another headache, and it's not profitable. It's even better when the plant manometer belongs to the state, and I will place my director. And if we have a park, for example, it does not belong to the state, it is financed by different people, and it's something very, very just like a puzzle to the official. But now it turns out that the money can be raised also having and using parks. And it's also comfortable and ecologically healthy. Grigory Smolyak, chief of the Department of the Economic Development of the Far East. What kind of categories you apply, or what kind of approaches you apply in developing the territory? You prefer industrial, former industrial zones, or something different? Of course, new projects are more interesting to us rather than old industrial zones. So we use categories which are not regular, which are not standard. the territory of the Far East from our point of view will develop in a little bit different way, and of course we'll try to assist it. And for that matter, zones of advanced economic development are arranged, and of course we work in this direction, and we try to use new approaches in management. As for urban space and development of city infrastructure, I'm pleased to say that for this kind it's really good that this kind of forum takes place in the Far East for the second time. Of course, we have here we have different preferences. For example, if we take Blagoveshchensk, who has never been to Blagoveshchensk, my advice is please visit it, because from Blagoveshchensk you can see Haihe on the Chinese side. Maybe it makes sense to have a forum which first day is hosted by Blagoveshchensk, the other day by Haihe. Yes, our city is unique to some extent, and it's not for nothing that the central government pays more attention to this part of the country. And of course, we are thankful to all those who are engaged in this process. Again, new space, new people. So it's interconnected. Again, returning to our demographic conference, people are leaving the Far East of Russia. Some sociologists say that immigration processes are proceeding. We are losing the population. We need to bring more people here, people to implement projects. But I was born here. I've been living here all my life. The primary objective is to keep people who live here right now. The Foundation of Public Opinion told us, made a presentation today, and they studied the public opinion, and they said that there is a kind of discrepancy. We treat strangers very cautiously, but on the other hand, we are ready to help them. Yes, I want to say that we are very peaceful people here, but still the main idea is to make urban environment very comfortable for people who were born here, who plan to live and work here in the future. Any kind of higher institutions want to get the education here. About 95% of graduates of universities want to leave this place. Of course, we have initiatives like, for example, to give plots of land free of charge and some others. But I think it is of secondary importance. But of primary importance is to keep people here who are at the moment live here. Our minister believes that the Far East should develop as part of the macro region, as part of the Asia-Pacific region. We should integrate into the Asia-Pacific regions, and all processes which are developing in that part of the world, they should take place also here in the Russian Far East. Therefore, we are ready to cooperate, we are ready to work with you in the future. Again, I believe that our work on the Большой Ussuriysky project is very successful. Okay, Peter Lawrence.
A couple of issues. First of all, I would like to support the point made by Mr. Andy Sharonov about the density and about the things that we just don't believe, or we cannot deal with the things, or we are not able to like them unless we actually really know how to deal with that. And this is the issue of urban density in the compact city. I mean, we do not have so many good examples of complex solutions, so to speak, or complex applications, but we have some samples which basically can represent as the whole thing. I mean, look at the public spaces of the city. In our part of the world, we just do not believe that actually public spaces can become attractive places for commerce, attractive places for multi-use places, and so on. But on the other hand, look at the commercial complexes and what is inside besides shops. These are actually public spaces. I mean, public spaces which are not in the cities, so they have actually been taken by the developers of those commercial complexes. So, I mean, if you look at the characteristics of those interior spaces of those commerce complexes, I mean, they have all the features of the fantastic, very well developed places, public spaces, and so on, so on. Secondly, there is the whole art of placemaking, including all those things which were quoted in one of the presentations before today. And this whole science is there. Okay, I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, we don't have to invent it. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. But also, before most, we have to realize that if we do not deal with this issue, there is a group of people who will be more than happy to deal with us, to deal with that. And these are developers. And there is nothing wrong that they are dealing with that. The problem is that if the public spaces are being taken by the developers, then the city is not a city, but just a collection of buildings. And this is not entirely the city which we want to live in. And now we are coming to the second point. Why people are moving away? Not because that they do not have apartments, because, as you said, you have solutions for that, okay? Not because they do not have jobs, because you have solutions for that. So why they are moving away? Because they are moving to some place which is more interesting for them. What does it mean, the place more interesting for them? They are valuing a specific site identity, site culture, public space, an opportunity to work on their laptop, computer, or tablet, or whatever they are having in a cafe over the nice street, and so on, so on, so on. This kind of the things, okay? And look at the examples of those creative places in Moscow, like Flakon, like Art Play, and all the other places, okay? It's flooded with young people. They are not paid, but they go there. Why is that? Because these are places where they feel interested, wanted, when there is some kind of creative atmosphere. I don't say that we should copy-paste this solution to here. It's not the idea, definitely, because then we might end up in a kind of theme park or Disneyland type of environment. But there are some very interesting examples of of attempts towards creating or recreating some kind of even if not entirely public, then semi-public spaces which actually can provide a kind of interesting environment for the people. Look at Irkutsk and this famous urban quarter number, yeah. I don't know which one, sorry about that, sorry about my ignorance, but it's a kind of piece of the city which was developed from scratch, and it's extremely attractive for the people to go there, to live there, to maybe not to live, but just to go and shop and stay and so on. Okay, so there's some kind of substitute of the traditional public space which is not in the city. Okay, so okay. But it is there. Okay.
Okay, Peter.
So that's how it is. I mean, I just wanted to make point that actually this is doable, but we have to realize that building just buildings is not enough. We have to think about building cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Alexei, see the question you raised, why our cities don't see such an opportunity. As many people are present here, they are decision makers or influence the decisions. First of all, the world has gone away from the economy of goods to the economy of services, even from that. From the economy of services to the economy of impressions, feelings. So the economy of impressions is valuable now, and whole industries work at creating impressions, and the whole countries derive profit from it. So the philosophy of Manom, it's a plant. is bad in this way. Germany example inspired me. The material will reign. In Germany, in the 16th century, in agriculture, the food production employed 75% of the population. Now, the number of foods doubled. It's also go for exports, and they are produced by only 2% of the population in Germany. So 400 years ago were 75% producers. Proportional values. The economy moves forward, and to think that Zeal plant can be kept 7 kilometers off the Kremlin and produce wonderful cars, this is a misconception. Let's see where the main funds are and what makes the cities attractive. I would like to hear from our Khabarovsk colleagues and hosts. We would be thankful if you speak out. I would like to thank the organizers. My second time. Last year I was in Vladivostok. A lot of useful and interesting information. We shall take much time to take it in. My recommendations for further fora. I think, and Mr. Lawrence in the first round table called us for thinking about man. The quality of living is the goal to stop the outflow of the population. I think we didn't discuss much the public infrastructure, social infrastructure. Maybe it's not the urban issue, but somehow the social infrastructure must be discussed. Because there are a lot of potentialities there. We, for many times, dealt with entrepreneurial activity and ideas among school children, but now a law 442 of the social service of the population, we came, you see, it is a catastrophe for me. I cannot understand how this sphere is operating with these huge resources and opportunities to be operable. But now the accessibility of social services, you see, when we estimated the demand for them, it turns out 57% or 27%. For example, the cost of a child in an infant home, 2,500 rubles per person a month. We speak about energy efficiency, saving, but adoptive family is paid 20,000 rubles. We'll have many examples. So the topic connected with the social infrastructure of the cities, maybe it's not the urban forum. Yes, it is the urban forum. We often discuss it, and in Vladivostok we spoke about schools, had many reports. The Federal Center of Project Finance is monitoring that. Only this time in Khabarovsk, we decided to concentrate on energy efficiency more. Yeah, I think we shared our impressions after the workshop. You see, 1.5 hours is very short for the workshop, but I agree with you. The topic is key, major, for the quality of living. Well, coming back here to the Far East, certainly with this topic, but put it on the agenda in the other cities. Yes, plenipotentiary representative of the president, staff officer. What is the city of the future? The question asked in Vladivostok received no answer. I would like to follow your agenda. So the people, local people, would invite you to similar events when there is a succession. Like yesterday, we discussed things informally. The more active the public should be. The initiative goes upward from downward. The more events at the local level, then it would be easier to answer such questions. What is the city of the future and who is there? Alexander Ivanovich, a couple of words. I would like not us, but certainly the future town, urban conference would also discuss the small cities issues. Amursk city, half of the city resembles, Stalingrad after the Second World War. We have many degrading urban spaces, and if Khabarovsk is the most advanced in amenities city of Moscow, but then Amursk, is impossible to look at. Let's look not at the best, but those that need saving. Thank you, Alexander Ivanovich. Please introduce yourself. Дайте ему микрофон. Дайте микрофон. Ну что мы будем переводить? They don't speak in the microphone. Да уж. For us to understand how our city should develop and look, what it will look like, a broad public discussion must be organized, because there is the city center with the historic part, unique architecture, and when into this architecture the elements are brought of quite different character, like offices, tall buildings, this impacts on the image.
Of course, it changes the city, and I've never heard positive opinion of the residents with respect, for example, the construction of 20-story building in the downtown area. And I have a lot of examples of this kind. I think we should determine which district of the city we want to see in which light, because it will be like a introducing card of our city. As for the development of the city, of course, it makes sense to do it more aggressively, to use built-up areas and to add green field areas. Well, we've heard about the northern part of Khabarovsk. I think in this respect, of course, we should not forget about the system of roads. Otherwise, there will be collapse, because it's necessary to link the northern part of the city with the central part. Without roads, we can't do that. And of course, the issue of parking lots emerge again. We are to think about people who live far away from the central part of the city, from the northern sector. So we should not it's not a good idea to forget about these problems. I think we need serious discussions with respect to parking lots and the development system of roads. I think these hearings will take place, and Alexander Kropotkin will close our session, because we are going to to open the Center of City Urban Studies. For us to have discussions, practically we have enough people to do that. Those who were included into polls, they are not specialists, they are just passengers. They do not participate in any kind of discussions or public hearings. It is important to learn our residents to be responsible citizens. So we should speak not about some abstract personality, we should speak about a specific type of a resident, and it should be a dialogue between the residents, representatives of the authorities, and business. And the moderator of this discussion takes a decision that it's time to finish our discussion. I think we had a very fruitful session, very interesting presentations, and we believe that they will appear on the site of the Urban Forum, because it's very difficult to see anything on the screen right now. We will be happy to have another conference here in Khabarovsk, and it's really good if you have a really nice business center, more comfortable, not to sit around table, but have it in a more liberal manner. Thank you for participating in the discussion.